The Dragon King broke Runa Blackrow's charcoal path plate in front of the entire Ashgard court, not because it had lied, because it had pointed too close to men he trusted. The plate split under his gauntleted hand with a sound like a bone cracking beneath stone. Black dust leapt from the fracture and scattered across the white court floor, fine as funeral ash. A few guards laughed in relief. A few nobles turned away, satisfied that the ugly servant's warning had finally been reduced to dirt. Runa did not cry out. She knelt because the guards had forced her there. She kept her hands still because Captain Varric Morn had already accused those hands of inventing routes where no assassin had walked. Her left cheek burned where one of the guard straps had struck her on the way into court. Her grey work dress was smeared with soot from the lower watch galleries. Around her wrists, the old ash reader cords hung loose, stripped of office but not yet cut. On the black dais above her, Dragon King Edryn Sorith stood with his face carved from anger and sleeplessness. He had nearly died 3 nights ago, not in battle, not beneath a rival banner. In his own eastern passage, between the war chamber and the private stair, where only the Ashguard knew the changing watch turns. A blade dipped in dragonbane had passed close enough to open his coat and poison the blood beneath his ribs. He had lived because the old fire in him burned hotter than the poison expected. That did not make him safe. It made him furious. Captain Varric Morn stood at his right hand, silver guard cloak pinned across one shoulder, expression stern with loyal grief. Majesty, she has frightened the lower servants for days with these drawings. She claims invisible fire, steps crossed guarded stone. She claims the assassin passed through our own men. Runa lifted her head. I did not claim. I read. A murmur moved through the court. Varric's mouth tightened. You read ash from a plate no one else understands. The plate does not invent footsteps. It invented treason. Runa looked past him, toward Edryn. No. Men did. The court inhaled. Edryn's gold eyes darkened. He was a powerful man, forced to choose between an ugly truth and a familiar face. Runa had watched that choice happen before the plate ever broke. She had sent 3 ash-track warnings to the Royal Guard office after the attempt. All returned, stamped. Servant error. She had marked the eastern passage, the lower brazier turn, and the ash drain mouth under the captain's watchrail. All 3 had come back sealed beneath Varric's hand. Then she had asked to bring the charcoal path plate before the king. Edryn had allowed it, not because he trusted her, because the wound under his ribs still burned whenever Varric said no assassin had entered. He had read only the part of her report that frightened him, and trusted Varric to dismiss the rest. That was the first fracture. His hand breaking the plate only made it visible. Now the plate lay broken. The king had done what fearful courts always did to proof they were not ready to read. The charcoal path plate had been old, before Edryn's grandfather wore a crown. It did not show futures. It did not name murderers. It did not judge guilt. It caught ash footprints where dragon blood heat disturbed stone, and drew only the path pressure left behind. A turn, a pause, a crossing, a place where a hidden step had lied to the floor. That was all. Breaking the plate could destroy the frame. It could not destroy the pressure already caught in the charcoal. A whole plate held the path neatly. A broken one spilled it onto the nearest clean surface and made the room itself finish reading. Enough to make powerful men nervous. Not enough to save a servant if the path ended at their boots. Varric stepped forward. The matter is settled. The object is destroyed. The servants she accused should be returned to questioning. Runa's head snapped toward him. There it was. The real reason he had hurried. 6 kitchen boys, 2 lamp maids, and an old ash sweeper had been taken before dawn because they had served near the eastern passage. Varric had needed blame low enough to kneel. Runa rose as far as the guards allowed. Release them. Varric laughed once. You are in chains. I am still the only one who read the floor before you washed it." The laughter died. Edrin looked at her, not softly, not kindly, but with attention sharp enough to cut. "What did the floor show?" he asked. Runa looked at the broken plate, at the dust, at the little black pieces lying like dead moons across polished white stone. She could have answered. She could have begged. Instead, she said, "Release the servants first." Varric turned to the king. "Majesty, she bargains with your attempted murder." "No," Runa said. "I bargain with the only thing men in this court seem willing to see. Power." The guards tightened around her. Edrin descended one step from the dais. His face had not softened. The poisoned scar under his collar glowed faintly, angry at movement. "You refuse to complete the route unless I release them. I refuse to let another false path be written over the poor while the true one still has dust in it." Varric's voice dropped. "The true one is broken." Runa looked at the shattered plate. Then the first grain of charcoal moved. No one saw it except her, not at first. A single black speck crawled across the white floor, leaving a thread of ember dark behind it. Then another joined it. Then 10. Then hundreds. The broken plate dust gathered, as if the court itself had become a page too clean to be honest. The guards stepped back. Runa remained kneeling. The dust did not return to the plate. It spread. A thin black line crawled from the shattered pieces toward the center of the Ashguard court, turned sharply, then shaped itself into the eastern passage mark Runa had drawn in her rejected report. At the ash drain symbol, it paused. Then it bent toward the side where Varric Morn stood. Captain Varric went still. Edrin saw. Runa saw him see. The charcoal dust flared with black fire. Not bright, not wild, only precise. It burned one sentence into the white stone. Broken plate draws what whole court refused to read. Edrin looked from the black line at Varric Morn's feet to the ash drain mark Runa had named in her rejected report. His voice did not soften. Where did the path pause before it turned? Captain Varric Morn answered before Runa could. "At the place where broken dust chose to pretend," he said. The Ashguard court held its breath around the black line burning across the white stone. It had begun as dust from a shattered plate, then shaped itself into the eastern passage mark Runa Blackrow had drawn in her rejected report. At the ash drain symbol it had paused. Then it had bent toward the side where Varric stood, not to his throat, not to his hand, only toward his side of the court. Enough for fear, not enough for truth to stand unchallenged. Varric stepped over the nearest thread of black fire as if it were beneath him. "Majesty, the reading is contaminated. The plate is broken. Its dust has scattered through court air, over boot marks, over old ash, over panic." She begged for servants to be released before finishing the route, because she knew the route could no longer be trusted. Runa stayed on her knees. The guards had loosened their grip when the dust moved, but they had not freed her. The ash reader cord still hung from her wrists, stripped of office, old charcoal knots brushing the stone like the hands of something buried but not dead. Dragon King Edrin Soreth stood at the edge of the black line. The poison scar beneath his collar glowed faintly, a thin ember pulse under royal skin. His gaze did not leave the ash drain mark. "Where did the path pause before it turned?" he asked. Varric's jaw tightened. Runa looked up at the king. "You already see where. I asked you." No apology, no softness, only the question he should have asked before his hand broke her plate. She let that sit between them for a breath. Then she pointed with 2 fingers, not touching the dust. "The ash drain mouth." A guard frowned. "That drain is below the captain's watch rail." "Yes," Runa said. The court shifted. Varric's face remained controlled. The eastern passage was washed after the attack. Everyone knows that. Dragonbane poison had touched stone. I ordered a guard wash for safety. Runa looked at him. You ordered it before the lower servants were questioned. To protect the king. To protect the floor. The dust line flickered, not expanding, not explaining. A broken path plate did not become a god, because it shattered. It only spilled pressure already caught in charcoal. If Runa read too greedily, the court would say she had taught dust to accuse. So she read slowly. She leaned toward the ash drain mark. The black fire there was thicker than the rest, burned low into the white stone, as if something hot had stood in one place longer than a step should. A running assassin leaves pull marks, she said. Fast pressure. Forward drag. No pause. Varric folded his arms. You speak as if footsteps have moods. Footsteps have weight. She pointed to the eastern passage symbol. Here, the path enters. Light, controlled. No stumble. No poison spill. Then to the lower, brazier turn. Here, the foot changes heat. Dragon blood step passing near open flame. The plate caught a flare. Then to the ash drain. Here, the pressure deepens. Edrin's eyes narrowed. Why? Someone waited. The words touched the court like a blade tip. Varric laughed once. Or, the dust gathered where the floor was uneven. Runa looked at the white stone surrounding the ash drain. It was too clean. Every part of the eastern passage route marked by her report had been washed smooth, but the wash had not spread evenly. It had thinned around the drain mouth and climbed upward in a narrow arc beneath the captain's watch rail. There, not a step, a reach. Runa's pulse beat once, hard. She lifted her gaze toward the iron watch rail above the drain, where Ashguard captains stood during private passage rotations. The rail overlooked the eastern corridor without entering it. From there, a man could signal a turn, drop a small gate hook, or lift a drain latch, without leaving a full footprint on the floor below. The assassin paused under the watch rail. She said. Varric's eyes hardened. Careful. No. The single word left her before fear could soften it. Runa rose slightly against the guard's hands. Careful is what you call silence, when a servant has already named too much. Edrin's gold eyes moved from her to the watch rail. Show me. Runa did not step forward until the guards released her. They looked to Varric first. That mistake did more damage than defiance. Edrin saw it. Release her, he said. The guards obeyed. Runa stood. Her knees ached. Her cheek still burned. Across the court, 6 kitchen boys, 2 lamp maids, and the old ash sweeper remained, held near the lower columns, wrists bound, faces hollow from a night of being convenient. One of the kitchen boys was barely old enough to carry a knife without dropping it. Runa looked at them before she moved. Edrin followed her gaze. Something tightened in his face. Not regret, yet. Regret was too easy before action. Unbind them, he said. Varric turned sharply. Majesty, not release. Unbind. They will remain under guard, not under rope. Runa did not thank him. A king did not deserve gratitude for loosening the wrong chains after ordering the wrong proof broken. She walked to the ash drain mark and crouched. The plate dust trembled near her hand, but she did not touch it. She took a pinch of loose gray ash from the edge of the washed stone instead, and rubbed it between finger and thumb. Water ash, she said. Cold wash. Strong lie. Guard issue. Varric answered at once. For poisoned safety, a safety wash does not erase only the steps that point upward. Silence dropped. Runa brushed the ash gently toward the base of the watch rail. The dust did not draw a new route. It only darkened what remained. A small upward streak appeared on the stone beneath the rail, almost invisible until black fire caught its edge. Not a footprint, not a name. A pause pressure. Someone had stood below. Someone above had answered. Edrin stepped closer. What is upward? Runa looked at the underside of the captain's watch rail. A lift mark. Varric's voice went cold. From old maintenance. No. Maintenance leaves tool ash. This is fire. Step pressure pulled toward a hand above the drain. She pointed to a narrow black smear under the rail, hidden beneath polish. The assassin paused here before the floor was washed. The broken plate dust gathered around the ash drain symbol, burning no farther than the proof allowed. Its line grew darker beneath the captain's watch rail, then stopped. It did not accuse the whole guard. It did not name the hand. It marked the place power had tried to clean. Black fire carved one sentence into the stone below the rail. Path paused under captain's watch rail before floor was washed. Varric had the court's answer ready before the black fire cooled. A captain's watch rail is where a captain watches, he said. That is not proof of betrayal. It is proof of duty. The words sounded clean. That was why they were dangerous. The Ashguard court stared at the sentence burned into the stone below the rail. The charcoal dust had marked the pores beneath the watch rail before the floor was washed. It had not leapt to Varric's throat. It had not written his name. It had not done the easy work frightened people wanted from magic. It had done something worse. It had shown a place powerful enough to be protected by explanation. Runa Blackrow stood beside the ash drain, with soot drying on her cheek and her wrists still bruised where the ash reader cords had been stripped from office. Across the court, the 6 kitchen boys, 2 lamp maids, and the old ash sweeper stood unbound but ringed by guards. Their ropes were gone. Their fear was not. Dragon King Edrin Sorith looked from the black mark to the watch rail above it. "Who ordered the wash?" Varric bowed his head. "I did, Majesty. Dragonbane poison touched the eastern passage. Delay could have spread it." Runa did not look at Edrin. "Ask when." The court shifted. Varric's eyes cut toward her. "Do not instruct the king. I instructed the floor first," Runa said. No one listened to that either. A low murmur moved through the nobles. Edrin turned fully toward her. His face had not softened, and his voice carried no apology. "When?" Runa crouched beside the ash drain and studied the pale rim where lye had eaten the stone too clean. "The wash did not begin after poison was found." Varric gave a sharp laugh. "You cannot know that. I can read what your men missed when they washed too quickly." She pointed to the outer ring of the drain. "Cold lye settles inward if poured after blood. It pushes poison residue toward the center, but this wash spread outward first, then inward later." Edrin's eyes narrowed. "2 washes?" "Yes," Varric said. "A second safety wash is not suspicious." "No," Runa said. "But the first wash happened before the Dragonbane bled into the stone." Silence struck harder than a shout. The kitchen boys near the lower column went still. One of the lamp maids covered her mouth. Even the guards looked toward the floor, as if the stone beneath their boots might suddenly remember them too. Edrin descended from the dais another step. "Explain." Runa touched the edge of the black path with one finger. Not the burning line itself, only the grey dust beside it. "Dragonbane leaves green heat in ash for 1 hour. Your passage was washed before the green heat settled. That means the floor was cleaned before anyone outside the route should have known the blade was poisoned." Varric's face hardened. "She is inventing colors now." "No," Runa said. "I am reading absence." The broken plate dust stirred faintly at her words, not drawing a new route, only darkening the thin wash edge around the ash drain. The white court floor had become a cruel mirror. It showed the court what the eastern passage could no longer show plainly. Edrin looked to the nearest guard clerk. "Bring the wash docket." The clerk hesitated. He looked at Varric first. Again. Runa saw Edrin notice this time. "Bring it," the king said. The clerk ran. Varric's voice lowered. "Majesty, the guard court cannot function if every emergency order is treated as conspiracy." Runa stood. "The guard court cannot function if emergency orders are written before emergencies." A few guards stiffened. One of the lamp maids began to cry silently. Not from relief, from exhaustion. False blame was heavy even when it started to lift. The wash docket arrived in a narrow iron folder, damp at one corner from storage near the lower cistern. Edrin took it himself. He opened to the night of the attack. The entries were neat. Too neat. Eastern Passage Safety Wash. Dragonbane Exposure. Ordered by Captain Varric Morn. Completed by lower service crew. The service crew names sat beneath the order, like stones on a grave. Kitchen boys. Lamp maids. Old ash sweeper. Varric had written the accusation into labor before anyone called it guilt. Runa looked at the time mark. That is wrong. Varric's smile was thin. Of course it is. She stepped closer to the docket. The time ink is overwarned. Edrin looked at her. Meaning? Guard clerks use ember ink for emergency entries. If written at the moment of alarm, the ink cools into the paper evenly. This entry was warmed after drying, Varric said. To preserve it. To change it. The words snapped through the court. Runa reached toward the docket, then stopped. She did not touch Royal Guard evidence without leave. Not because she respected the men who had chained her, because she respected proof. Edrin saw the pause. Read it. Only then did she take the edge of the page. The old ash reader cord on her wrist brushed the lower margin. Charcoal dust from the broken plate slid across the floor in a thin line, gathered beneath the docket, and rose like breath against the iron folder. Not a map. Not a confession. Fresh a meeting record. The visible time mark blurred. Beneath it, an older stroke surfaced. First bell after midnight. The written alarm time above it read third bell. 2 bells later, Runa's throat tightened. The wash order was first written at first bell. Edrin's face changed. Barely. But the court felt it. He had been struck near third bell. Varric stepped forward. Emergency pre-clearance. I ordered readiness because patrol rumors suggested poison risk. Runa looked at him. A readiness order does not name the Eastern Passage before the king bleeds there. Varric's hand flexed a hissil. Only once. Edrin saw. So did Runa. She turned the docket toward the lower columns. And it does not list servants as completed crew before they were summoned from bed. The old ash sweeper made a sound like his breath had broken. One kitchen boy whispered, "We were taken after dawn." Runa did not look at him. If she did, her anger might become too human for this court to trust. Edrin's voice cut across the chamber. Remove their names from suspect hold. Varric turned. Majesty. Now. A clerk hurried forward with shaking hands. Runa did not thank the king. She watched the ink cross through the servant names and waited until the guards stepped back from them. Only then did she kneel again beside the black path. The broken dust gathered around the wash docket, then spilled a narrow thread back toward the ash drain symbol. It did not complete the assassin's route. It only joined the false time to the washed floor. Black fire carved itself beneath the altered entry. Guard wash order, written before Dragonbane alarm. The old ash sweeper did not move when the guard stepped back from him. Freedom, when it came late, could look too much like another trick. He stood with his rope-burned wrists held close to his chest, staring at the crossed-out servant names in the wash docket as if ink could change its mind and crawl back over them. The kitchen boys stayed near him. The 2 lamp maids clung to each other beneath the lower columns, silent and pale, waiting for the court to decide whether poor bodies were truly finished being useful. Runa Blackrow saw them. So did Edrin Soreth. That did not make him innocent. It only meant he was finally looking where the route had always led first, downward, toward the people easiest to blame. Captain Varric Morn stood beside the captain's watch rail, with his silver guard cloak still perfect. A wash order written early proves vigilance, he said. The king had been receiving threats for weeks. I prepared the Eastern Passage because I understood danger before a lower ash reader began drawing ghost steps. Runa rose from the black fire line. You prepared the floor before the assassin used it. Varric looked at her. Or, I protected the king from poison. The poison had not arrived. You cannot know every movement of Dragonbane. No, she said. But Ash knows when a floor is clean to hide a root instead of cleanse a wound. Edrin's hand tightened on the iron wash docket. What does the wash hide next? Runa did not answer quickly. The broken plate dust rested around the ash drain symbol, low and dark, like embers buried under too much white stone. It had given them the false timing. It had marked the pause under the captain's rail. It had not yet shown who opened the way, and it would not, unless she read the pressure correctly. The drain, she said. Varric's expression did not change, but one guard behind him shifted his weight. Runa saw, not the drain mouth, she added. The grate beneath it. A court noble gave a nervous laugh. An assassin crawled through a drain? Runa looked at him. Dragon, blood assassins do not need wide roads. They need heat, shadow, and one opened mouth in the stone. The laughter died. Edrin descended the last step from the dais. His wound burned beneath his collar, a red pulse under black royal cloth. He came to the ash drain and crouched without touching the dust. What opens it? A lower latch, Runa said. From service tunnels. Varric answered at once. Then ask the service crews. Runa turned on him. You already did. With rope, the 6 kitchen boys lowered their eyes. Edrin's jaw hardened. From above? Runa looked toward the captain's watch rail. There is a guard release. Varric's voice sharpened. For emergency flood clearing. Yes, Runa said. Not for assassination routes. Edrin looked up at the rail. Who has authority? The captain on watch, Varric said before she could speak. Or any guard under poison emergency. Runa shook her head. Not under old Ashtrack law. A captain may order the drain cleared. He may not open the grate alone during royal passage rotation. Varric smiled thinly. And yet you know so much law for a lower gallery reader. I learned it, because men like you forget it when they stand high enough. The Ashguard court went still. Edrin did not defend his captain. He also did not defend her. Read the grate, he said. Runa looked down at the stripped office cord still loose around her wrists. Cut these. Varric's eyes narrowed. She asks for tools now. No, Runa said. I ask for my hands. Edrin gave one short nod. A guard stepped forward with a blade and cut the old cords free. They fell to the floor in 2 black loops. Runa felt air hit the bruised skin beneath them, and for one breath, the sting almost broke through her face. Almost. She knelt by the ash drain. The stone around it had been washed pale. Too pale. The lye had eaten surface soot and left the drain rim clean enough to look innocent from standing height. But Runa had spent years reading floors no one else thought worth lowering their eyes for. She leaned close. There, inside the inner rim, a crescent scratch curved upward toward the rail. Not service tool width, guard release width. She took a pinch of broken plate dust from the nearest line and set it beside the mark. Not on it, beside it. The dust trembled, hungry to follow what remained, but she held her breath and waited. A false reader forced dust. A true one let pressure choose. After a moment, the black grain slid into the crescent scratch and darkened. Varric said, anyone could have scratched that. Runa did not look up. Anyone with the captain's release hook. Edrin turned to the guards beneath the rail. Bring the watch rail hook register. No one moved. For the first time, the Ashguard hesitated before their king. That was answer enough to make the court cold. Edrin's voice lowered. Bring it. A young guard broke from the line and ran to the rail cabinet. When he returned, he carried a narrow steel ledger and a ring of black hooks. Each hook was marked with a watch position. Each mark should have matched a sign outline. Runa did not touch the hooks. She looked at the ledger first. Eastern rail. Third bell. Captain inspection. Hook sealed. That was what the top line claimed. Then she looked at the hook itself. The black metal smelled faintly of lye. Washed, she said. Varric laughed without humor. Everything near poison was washed. A safety wash does not polish only the pot, a hand grips. Edrin took the hook from the guard and held it up. The grip was clean. The lower curve was not. Ash clung under the notch, caught where hurried washing failed to reach. Runa pointed. That notch touched the drain release. Varric stepped forward. Majesty, hooks are used often. Old residue proves nothing. Then the old residue should not fear fresh dust. She placed 1 grain of charcoal plate dust on the hook's inner notch. The grain burned black. The line on the floor answered, not by racing forward, not by naming a man, only by pulling a thin thread from the ash drain up toward the captain's watch rail. It stopped at the hook register and gathered beneath the sign outline. The ink shivered. A hidden pressure mark rose under the word sealed. Removed before first bell, returned after third. Runa read it aloud. The young guard who had brought the register went white. Varric's face stayed hard. A clerk. Error. Runa looked at the rail, then the drain, then the servants whose names had almost been buried under his clean docket. Clerk errors do not open iron. The broken charcoal dust flared carefully beneath the captain's watch rail, tying the drain crescent, the washed hook, and the altered sign outline into one narrow proof. Black fire carved itself across the steel ledger. Captain's release hook, removed before first bell, and returned after the attack. The young guard who had carried the hook register looked as if the steel ledger had burned through his hands. He stood beneath the captain's watch rail with his palms open, fingers shaking, while the black fire faded across the metal page. The words remained, not loud, not blazing, worse than that. Read Abel. Runa Blackrow watched the court read them, and then watched the court try to survive what reading required. Captain Varric Morn did not look at the hook first. He looked at Edrin. That was how loyal men defended themselves in royal courts. They turned accusation into injury. They made the king feel that doubt itself was betrayal. A release hook removed before first bell proves preparation, Varric said. Nothing more. Threats had already been made against your majesty. I ordered full inspection of drains, rails, locks, and lower grates. Runa looked at the washed hook in Edrin's hand. Then where is the inspection order? Varric's eyes moved to her. In the guard cabinet. Then bring it. You do not command my guard. No, Runa said. But your guard keeps appearing under the dust. The court held very still. Edrin turned toward the rail cabinet. Bring the inspection order. Varric's jaw worked once. Only once. A guard climbed to the cabinet beneath the captain's watch rail and opened the iron door. A few flakes of cold ash fell from inside. Runa saw them before anyone else did. Cabinet ash did not fall in flakes unless something had been disturbed after settling. The guard returned, with a narrow packet of inspection slips tied in black cord. Varric reached for it. Edrin took it first. A small thing. A terrible one. Runa saw Varric understand that the king's hand had moved past him. Edrin opened the top slip. Eastern Passage. Safety inspection. First bell. Captain authority. Hook. Removed for flood clearance test. Varric inclined his head. As I said. The words were perfect. Runa had learned to distrust perfect words around washed stone. May I read the edge? She asked. Edrin held the slip out. Not gently, carefully. That was new enough to hurt if she let it. She did not. Runa took only the lower corner and tilted the paper toward the charcoal line on the floor. The dust did not leap. It did not flood the page. It waited until she breathed once and let a single loose grain rise from the black path. The grain touched the edge of the slip. Nothing happened. A few nobles exhaled too soon. Then the ink began to sweat. Tiny black beads gathered over the words "First Bell." Runa's eyes narrowed. This was written over oil ash. A clerk near the rail whispered, "Oil ash. Used when an order is backdated after the original heat has cooled." Varric snapped. "Enough. She invents a new law every time the dust hesitates." Runa did not look away from the slip. "No. I read old laws you counted on. Everyone forgetting." The inspection ink blurred. Beneath First Bell, no earlier time appeared. No original order. Only blank fiber. The court shifted uneasily. Runa turned the slip toward Edrin. "There was no inspection order before the hook was removed. This was written after the hook returned." Varric answered at once. "Emergency action is often recorded afterward. Then it should name the clerk who recorded it." Runa turned the slip over. The clerk line had been scraped nearly white. She did not need magic to see that. But this court did not believe seeing, unless ash burned for it. She laid the forged inspection slip beside the washed release hook on the floor. The broken plate dust gathered between them, slow and careful. A thin black thread joined paper to metal. The erased clerk line darkened. Not a name. A seal pressure. Captain's night inspection seal. Edrin looked at Varric. "Your seal." "My office," Varric said. "Not necessarily my hand." Runa looked at his gloves, polished black leather, clean enough to be a confession to anyone who knew what men washed first. "The seal pressure is heavier on the left edge," she said. "Who in your office presses with left-hand weight?" No one answered. The silence moved through the guard line, before fear did. Runa followed that fear to a narrow-faced lieutenant near the lower rail. The man lowered his head too quickly. Not guilt. A man trying not to be chosen next. Runa knew the posture. Varric had prepared more than one place for blame to kneel. Edrin saw her looking. "You know something. I know fear when it is waiting to be assigned." The lieutenant's face went pale. Varric's voice cooled. "Or you know how to protect anyone useful to your story." My story did not wash the hook. The broken dust pulsed once, as if the floor agreed but refused to say more than proof allowed. Runa crouched beside the hook again. The inner notch still held ash where hurried washing had failed to reach. She brought the forged inspection slip close, not touching metal to paper, letting heat speak to heat. The dust line shivered. It drew from the hook to the rail cabinet, then from the cabinet to the forged inspection slip, then stopped. Runa frowned. Missing. The court waited, hungry now in a different way. Edrin's voice stayed low. "What is missing?" "Token." Varric's face changed. Barely, but she was watching for the smallest fracture. "Inspection seals require a watch token," Runa said. "A seal can be copied. A token must be present at the cabinet." Edrin turned to the opened rail cabinet. "Where is the captain's night token?" The guard at the cabinet searched the inner hooks. One hook, then another, then again, slower. His hand stopped at an empty peg. "Majesty," he whispered. "It is not here." Varric spoke before the silence could grow teeth. "It is on my person, as regulation allows during threat hours." Runa looked at him. "Then it was not in the cabinet when the hook was removed. That proves nothing. It proves the cabinet opened for someone carrying captain's authority outside the rail." Varric's eyes hardened. "Or it proves I kept my token secure during an assassination attempt." Runa held out her hand. "Show it." The command did not come from a servant's rank. It came from the evidence already burning at Varric's feet. Varric ignored her and looked at Edrin. "Majesty, in front of the court?" Edrin's expression did not move. "Show it." Slowly, Varric drew a black coin from beneath his silver guard cloak. The captain's night token should have been smooth along the rim, marked only by guard sun and rank ash. This one carried charcoal caught in the groove. Runa saw it. Edrin did too, because this time he was looking before she spoke. "Place it on the floor," Runa said. Varric did not move. Edrin held out his hand, After a breath too long, Varric set the token in the king's palm. Edrin lowered it beside the washed hook, the forged inspection slip, and the black path drawn from Runa's broken plate. For one moment, nothing happened. Then the charcoal dust crawled around the token rim and flared in 3 short beats. Cabinet, hook, drain. Not enough to name the assassin. Enough to name access. Enough to prove authority had moved before the false paper existed. Black fire burned across the forged inspection slip. Captain's night token used to remove release hook before false inspection order was written. Varric did not reach for the black coin again. That was the first wise thing he had done since the dust began reading. The captain's night token lay on the white court floor between the forged inspection slip, the washed release hook, and the black line from Runa Blackrow's shattered plate. Its rim still smoked where charcoal had caught in the narrow groove. 3 short burns marked its path of use. Cabinet, hook, drain. Enough to prove the token had opened authority. Not enough to prove whose hand had carried it. Captain Varric Morn saw that gap and stepped into it like a man who had built his life around narrow places. My token was stolen, he said. The court seized the possibility quickly. It was easier to imagine theft than treason, standing in a silver cloak beside the Dragon King. Easier to imagine some nameless servant creeping near the captain's rooms than to imagine the ash guard opening its own veins from within. Runa looked toward the kitchen boys. There it was again. A path downward. Blame looking for a poor body. Dragon King Edrin Sorith followed her gaze. His face did not soften, but his mouth tightened as if the lesson had finally struck bone. No servant is seized for the token, he said. Varric turned. Majesty, if it was stolen, then we prove where. Runa did not thank him. She would not teach the court that ordinary restraint deserved worship. Edrin looked at her. Can the dust show theft? No. Varric's eyes sharpened with triumph. Runa continued. It can show handling pressure. Theft is a story. Pressure is a mark. The triumph thinned. She knelt near the token, but did not touch it. The token was a captain's object. Old black iron tempered with dragon ash. If she lifted it, Varric would say she had warmed it with her own hand. So she turned to the old ash sweeper at the lower column. Master Alt, she said quietly. Your broom. The old man blinked as if hearing his name in court had startled him more than ropes had. A guard started to object. Edrin said, Give it. The ash sweeper brought his broom with shaking hands. It was a poor thing. Reed bristles, blackened handle, copper binding worn almost flat. Runa took it with more care than she had seen anyone take a servant's tool that morning. Thank you, she said. The old man's eyes filled. She did not look too long. Mercy could ruin her voice if she let it. Using the broom's worn copper edge, Runa nudged a single loose grain of charcoal dust toward the token rim. It caught at the groove, flared, then settled. Nothing more. Varric gave a short breath. There. Wait, Runa said. The token did not burn again. Instead, the dust around it cooled in 2 places and darkened in one. Edrin crouched opposite her, careful to keep his shadow from crossing the mark. What am I seeing? 3 pressures, she said. Captain's chain, guard cabinet, foreign glove. Varric laughed once. Foreign glove? Not foreign kingdom. Foreign to this token. She pointed with the broom edge. Your chain leaves oil ash in the inner groove. The cabinet leaves hinge grit on the lower rim. This mark is over both. Edrin's eyes narrowed. After it left the cabinet. Yes. Varric's voice hardened. Many guards wear gloves. Runa looked up at him. Ash guard gloves are dragonhide. This is silk char. The court murmured. Silk char did not belong to lower servants. It belonged to officers who handled flame papers, sealed orders, and ceremonial guard oaths. The kind of glove worn inside command rooms, not kitchens. Edrin looked to the guard line. "Who wears silk char on night watch?" No one answered. The silence was not empty. It had ranks in it. Runa touched the floor beside the token with the broom edge. The token was not stolen from a sleeping captain's belt. Varric's face remained still. "You cannot know where I kept it." "No. But the token knows where it was warmed." She turned the broom toward the black line, already drawn across the floor. The broken plate dust stirred, reluctant but awake. It did not race. It did not spill toward Varric like theater. It lifted only one thin thread from the token and drew it backward across the white stone, toward the lower brazier turn Runa had marked in her rejected warning. Edrin followed it with his eyes. "So the token passed the lower brazier," he said. "Near open flame," Runa answered. But not by accident. The thread stopped at the small symbol of the lower brazier turn. There, the dust thickened, not like a step, like a hand held close to heat. Runa's throat tightened. "Someone warmed the token there before using it," Varric said. "Night metal chills. Any guard might warm a token before handling it. A captain's token is not warmed for comfort," Runa said. "It is warmed to wake authority ash." Edrin looked at her. "Why?" "Cold token opens cabinet only. Warm token opens cabinet and masks removal timing." The guard clerk made a faint sound of horror. Varric turned on him. "Hold your tongue." Adran's has a cut toward Varric. The captain bowed his head, but too late. Runa nudged the dust again. It darkened at the lower brazier mark, and pulled a second thread toward the captain's rail cabinet, then toward the forged inspection order. The route remained incomplete. It did not yet show the assassin's whole passage. It only tied warmth to authority. Edrin's voice was low. "Who had access to the lower brazier before first bell?" Varric answered immediately. "Brazier keepers, lampmaids, servants." Runa looked toward the two lampmaids. Their faces went white. "No," she said. Varric's eyes slid toward her. "No?" The lower brazier for the eastern passage was sealed after night rotation. Lampmaids could feed the outer flame, not the authority coal inside. Edrin turned to the guard clerk. "Is that true?" The clerk swallowed. "Yes, Majesty." "Who can lift the authority coal cover?" The clerk did not look at Varric this time. He looked at the floor. "Captain, lieutenant, or oath-marked rail officer." Runa stood slowly. Then the token was warmed by someone with rail authority before it removed the hook. Varric's voice came colder. "Or by someone who stole rail authority." Runa met his eyes. "Then show the oath. Mark list." This time, Varric's mask held. Barely. The oath mark list was brought from the same cabinet, a black strip of names sealed beneath heat varnish. Runa did not read the names first. She read the varnish. One name had been warmed recently, not erased, prepared. She held the strip near the lower brazier mark, and the broken dust rose in a careful black thread, touching only the warmed entry. The letters beneath the varnish surfaced. Lieutenant Corvin Ash, a lower-ranked rail officer, a man standing 3 paces behind Varric. Corvin staggered back. "No, I did not." Runa looked at his hands. Dragon-hide gloves. No silk cha. Fear, not guilt. "His name was warmed," she said. "Not his hand." Edrin's eyes flashed. "A false oath mark." "Yes." The dust at the lower brazier turn burned brighter, then carved one clear line across the oath mark strip. Captain's token warmed at lower brazier under false lieutenant oath mark. Lieutenant Corvin Ash backed into the guard line, as if the name on the oath strip had become a blade pointed at his throat. "No," he said. "Majesty, I never touched the captain's token. I never opened the rail cabinet. I never went near the lower brazier before first bell." Captain Varric Morn turned toward him with controlled disappointment. Panic makes men forget. Corvin's face emptied. Not with guilt, with recognition. Runa Blackrow saw it, because she had worn that expression herself in smaller rooms before men decided what her fear meant. Dragon King Edrin Sorith stood between the blackened oathmark strip and the charcoal path on the floor. The broken plate dust had gone still again, gathered around the lower brazier symbol and the warmed false name. It did not rush to rescue Corvin. It did not leap to accuse Varric. It waited for someone living to read what the ash had caught. Edrin looked at the lieutenant. "Did you sign the lower brazier authority?" "No, Majesty." Varric's mouth tightened. "Then someone has used your oathmark, Lieutenant, either through theft, negligence, or fear. All three are guard failures." Runa stepped forward before Corvin could be swallowed whole. "Do not make him the new servant," she said. The court went silent. Varric's eyes cut to her. "You overstep." "No, I recognize a familiar path." Edrin's gaze moved to the unbound kitchen boys, the lamp maids, the old ash sweeper, then back to Corvin. The poisoned scar at his collar burned low, a quiet red pulse under dark cloth. "What proves the mark was false?" he asked. Runa did not soften because he had asked correctly. She knelt beside the oath strip and pointed to the warmed entry. A true oath mark warms from inside the name outward. The officer's blood heat answers his own line. This one warmed from the varnish down. Corvin whispered. Someone pressed heat over it. "Yes." Varric gave a cold breath. "Any reader can invent direction after the fact." Runa looked at the black dust. "Then let the varnish answer pressure, not my mouth." She asked for no royal tool. She took Master Olt's broom again, using the worn copper edge to lift a single grain of charcoal from the lower brazier mark. She set it above Corvin's warmed name. The grain did not sink. It slid sideways, not toward Corvin, toward the top edge of the strip, where command seals were pressed before oath lists were stored. Edrin saw the movement. "It avoids his name. It follows the heat source," Runa said. The grain reached the upper edge and blackened a small crescent beneath the varnish. A seal pressure surfaced there, shallow but unmistakable. Captain's command varnish, used not to sign an oath but to access the oath list before alteration. Varric's voice stayed even. "My office maintains the list. Maintenance does not warm a lieutenant's name. It may if the varnish is brittle." Runa looked at him. "Varnish does not become brittle, only under useful lies." A murmur moved through the court. Edrin turned to the guard clerk. "Where is the oath list kept?" "In the captain's command room, Majesty." Varric inclined his head. "As regulation requires." Runa stood. "Then bring the command room access slate." The clerk hesitated. Varric did not look at him. That was worse. The clerk went anyway. While he was gone, Corvin remained between two guards, who no longer touched him but still stood too close. Runa noticed the way his right hand shook, and the way he tried to hide it beneath his cloak. Not cowardice. Damage. Men who had served near Varric learned to fear correction before accusation. Edrin noticed her noticing. "You believe him. I believe the ash does not." "That is not the same." "No," she said. "That is why I am still reading." The answer struck him quietly. No gratitude. No forgiveness. Only work. The command room access slate arrived in a black iron frame. It recorded who entered the captain's chamber by heat impression, not name. Names could be written by clerks. Heat had to pass the threshold. The slate showed 3 entries before first bell. Varric Morn. Varric Morn. Corvin Esh. The court breathed sharply. Corvin shook his head. "I was on West Stair rotation." Runa looked at the 3rd mark. "This is not his heat." Varric laughed once. "Now heat has handwriting?" "Yes," Runa said. "And this handwriting is wearing a glove." She pointed to the edge of the mark. Corvin's true heat, if he had entered, would have pressed unevenly, because his right hand carried an old sword burn. This mark was too smooth, too covered. Silk, Cha. The same pressure they had found on the captain's token. Edrin looked at Varric. Your officers wear silk? Cha? Command, scribes do. Not lieutenants, Runa said. The dust from the lower brazier mark stirred and drew a thin line across the slate, connecting the third entry to the captain's command, varnish on the oath strip. Still careful, still limited. It did not say who wore the glove. It showed only that Corvin's name had been used by a covered hand entering the captain's room. Varric stepped closer. A command scribe may have made the correction under my authority. Then the correction should be in the scribe log. Edrin held out his hand. Bring it. This time, the clerk did not look at Varric. That small courage changed the air. The scribe log came from the same chamber, thin and neat, with black thread binding. Its pages listed copied orders, inspection slips, watch changes, and emergency seal uses. Runa found the hour before first bell. Blanc. Tout blanc. A removed page left tiny thread scars along the spine. She touched the scars with the broom's copper edge. A page was cut out. Varric said, old damage. Fresh thread tension. The broken plate dust rose no more than a pinch and settled into the cut places. The thread scars darkened. A hidden pressure line surfaced along the empty gap. Not a full entry, only a destination stamp. Captain's command room to lower brazier authority file. Edrin read it once, then again. The court did not move. Runa placed the oath strip beside the access slate and the cut scribe log. The dust joined them in a narrow black triangle, careful not to claim more than the records gave. Black fire burned across the removed page scar. False Lieutenant oath mark, entered from captain's command room, before first bell. The captain's command room had no windows. Runa Blackrow noticed that before she noticed the locks. No windows meant no stray ash from courtyard braziers. No guest dust, no kitchen soot, no lamp-made sweepings. Whatever marked the floor inside that chamber belonged to men who had been allowed past the iron door. That made the room cleaner and more dangerous. Dragon King Edrin Sorith entered first, with the poisoned scar under his collar burning like a banked coal beneath black cloth. Captain Varric Morn walked beside him, silver cloak smooth, face controlled. Every step measured to say he had nothing to fear from his own walls. Runa followed with Master Olt's old broom in one hand, and her wrists bare where the stripped cords had been cut away. The Ashguard court crowded behind the threshold, but Edrin lifted one hand. No one enters unless she asks. Varric's mouth tightened. Majesty, this is my command room, and yet every mark we have followed leads here. No apology, no softness, only a door staying open, because proof had reached it. Runa did not thank him. She stepped inside and lowered her eyes to the floor. The command room was severe and beautiful in the way guard power liked to be beautiful. Black stone, iron map table, weapon racks, sealed order shelves, and a narrow hearth where blue fire burned without smoke. On the far wall hung the watch rotation plates for every private route in the eastern wing. Beneath them sat a locked drawer marked Assassination Emergency Authority. Runa ignored the drawer. Varric saw that. You do not want the obvious record. I want the first dirty one. The young guard clerk at the door swallowed. Runa crouched near the hearth. The blue command fire had been banked low, but the stone before it carried a faint dusting of black silk ash. Not ordinary cloth. Silk char. The same trace found on the captain's night token. The same covered pressure used over Corvin Ash's false oath mark. She touched nothing. She held the broom's copper edge close to the ash and waited. Nothing moved. Varric said, Perhaps the room refuses invention. No, Runa said. It refuses hunger. Edrin looked at her. Meaning? If I ask it for the assassin, it will give me nothing honest. The plate dust caught path pressure, not guilt. We read one pressure at a time. She turned the broom slightly. Who stood here wearing silk? Char before first bell. The broken plate dust, carried in the broom's worn binding, loosened one grain. Just one. It fell to the floor before the hearth and burned black. A narrow crescent appeared beneath the ash, shaped by a knee or a hand, braced low near the command fire. Someone knelt here, Runa said. Varric's voice stayed calm. Command scribes kneel to warm seal wax. Not at the hearth base. Wax warms on the table. She looked toward the iron map table. There were no ash marks on its edge. Too clean. The lie was not that the room had been used. The lie was that the right surfaces had been made spotless, while the low places were ignored. Runa moved to the table and studied the underside. A small black smear clung beneath the eastern corner, where no standing guard would see it. She lifted the broom edge toward it. The dust answered faintly, not drawing a line, only darkening the shape. Split curve. Release hook oil. Edrin came closer. The hook touched the table? No, Runa said. The hook was hidden beneath it. Varric gave a short, controlled laugh. Why would any man hide a guard tool under my own table? Runa looked at him. Because no servant is allowed to clean beneath a captain's war map without permission. Master Alt stood outside the door, his face lowered. Edrin saw that too. Master Alt, the king said. The old man startled. Majesty, were you allowed to clean this room after the attack? No, Majesty. Captain's order. Varric turned on him. Because the chamber was sealed. Runa stood. Sealed after it was used. The command room chilled. Edrin looked to the rotation plates on the wall. What route does that corner mark? Runa followed his gaze. The eastern passage plate hung above the others, black iron, etched with guard stations and private doors. Its lower edge had been polished recently. Too recently. The plate listed the war chamber, eastern passage, lower brazier turn, ash drain mouth, captain's watch rail, and private stair. The route where Edrin had nearly died. Runa stepped closer. One tiny screw at the bottom of the plate was turned wrong. Someone removed this, Varric answered at once. Rotation plates are updated. With 2 hands, Runa said. This was opened from one side. Edrin reached toward the plate. Runa stopped him. Do not touch it yet. His hand stilled. That mattered. She took a loose grain of dust from the broom binding and placed it beneath the crooked screw. The grain crawled upward, slow and reluctant. It slid into the screw groove, then pulled black heat from beneath the plate. A hidden strip dropped out and landed on the table with a thin iron click. The guard clerk made a strangled sound. It was not a route map. It was a watch turn overlay, a narrow black plate used to change which guard saw which passage during a private movement. Runa read the etched line. Eastern passage blind turn. 3rd bell. Edrin's face went hard. 3rd bell. The hour he had been struck. Varric stepped forward. Blind turns are used to protect royal privacy, not during poison threat, Runa said. Especially during threat. She looked up at him. Then, why was the overlay hidden instead of logged? Varric's answer came too late. Only a breath. But everyone in the room had learned to count small delays. Runa set the hidden overlay beside the forged inspection slip and the oath-mark strip brought from the court. The broken plate dust did not surge. It gathered thinly along the edges, tying hearth ash, hook oil, and the crooked rotation plate together. Pressure. Not motive. Not full guilt. Enough. Black fire burned across the hidden overlay. Eastern passage watch turn blinded from captain's command room. Before 3rd bell. Edrin looked at the words. Then, at the rotation plates that had told his guards where not to look, his voice dropped low enough that even Varric had to lean into it. Who received the blind turn order? The guard clerk dropped his eyes before anyone spoke. That was answer enough to make the command room feel smaller. Runa Blackrow stood beside the iron map table, with the hidden watch turn overlay lying between the forged inspection slip, the false oathmark strip, and the washed release hook. The broken charcoal dust rested along the evidence edges like black frost. It did not move. It had drawn the pressure as far as the records allowed. Eastern Passage Watch turned blinded from Captain's command room before third bell. Dragon King Edrin Sorith looked from the overlay to the guard clerk. Who received the order? The clerk's lips parted. Captain Varric Morn spoke first. Route changes pass through many hands during threat hours. A received order does not make the receiver guilty. No one said guilty, Runa answered. We asked, received. Varric turned his cold gaze on her. You have made accusation out of every ordinary function in this court. No, she said. I have made ordinary functions stop hiding behind each other. Edrin did not look away from the clerk. Name. The clerk swallowed. Eastern Relay Station, Majesty. Runa's fingers tightened around Master Olt's broom. Eastern Relay Station. Not a person yet. A place. A mouth through which command traveled from the captain's office into guard movement. If the command room blinded the watch turn, the relay station made men obey it. Edrin's scar pulsed under his collar. Bring the relay slate. Varric's expression did not break. Majesty, the relay station handles every shift in the eastern wing. If we drag every slate into court, the guard system collapses. Runa looked toward the open door, where the kitchen boys, lamp maids, Master Olt, and lower servants still waited in the outer court. Even freed from rope, they stood as if any new record might call them back. The guard system already collapsed downward, she said. It landed on servants first. The words held. Edrin heard them. So did the court beyond the threshold. He turned to the nearest guard. Bring the relay slate, and bring the servant hold ledger. Varric went still. Why the servant ledger? Edrin's gaze did not leave him. Because every false route has tried to end there. Runa did not thank him. She watched instead. The relay slate arrived first at your study. A flat black board framed in iron, etched with heat impressions from orders received and passed onward. Unlike ledgers, it had no ink to scrape. Heat entered, cooled, and remained as pressure under the stone skin. The servant-hold ledger came after it, carried by a frightened lower clerk. Its pages listed the 6 kitchen boys, 2 lamp maids, and Master Olt under temporary suspicion for Eastern Passage access. Temporary suspicion. The court had such clean words for terror. Runa looked at Edrin. Before I read the relay, strike the servant hold. Varric laughed without warmth. Still bargaining? No, Runa said, preventing the next lie from finding a place to kneel. Adran held her fasa. For one dangerous breath, the room seemed to wait for his pride to rise. It did not. He took the servant-hold ledger and crossed a hard black line through the suspicion order himself. Not with ceremony, with pressure. Servants named in this hold are cleared from the assassination route, unless new proof names them by act, not station. Master Olt covered his mouth. One lamp maid began to weep. Runa looked away before her own throat could betray her. Only then did she kneel beside the relay slate. The broken plate dust stirred near the hidden overlay, but she did not let it rush. The path plate, even broken, had not become a servant to court hunger. It read pressure. It did not perform. She placed the watch turn overlay beside the relay slate. If the blind turn passed lawfully, the slate should show full transfer heat. Captain's command to Eastern Relay to watch posts to movement. Edrin crouched opposite her. And if not, then someone cut out the middle and made the relay carry only silence. Varric said, "Poetic nonsense." Runa ignored him. She took one grain of charcoal dust with the broom's copper edge and placed it on the relay slate. The grain darkened, then slid not to the center, where orders were normally received, but to the lower corner. Runa's breath slowed. "Back entry," she said. The clerk looked frightened. "Relay slates do not have back entries." "They do if someone opens the frame." Edrun reached for the iron edge. Runa stopped him with one sharp glance. He stilled. She tilted the slate instead. Under the lower frame, black dust gathered in a hair-thin seam. Someone had lifted the relay stone from its frame and pressed heat into the underside, bypassing the public face. Varric said, "Impossible." Runa looked at him. Not for someone with Captain's command room access and a warmed token. The dust slipped into the seam. A hidden heat mark surfaced beneath the relay slate. Not a full order, only a routing pressure. Captain's command room. Eastern relay, underside. No watch post transfer. Runa looked up. The relay did not receive an order to move guards. It received an order not to send one. Edrun's face hardened. Meaning? The eastern passage was blinded, but the watch posts were never formally reassigned. Men stayed where they were, believing another station had been ordered to cover the gap. One of the Ashguard at the door whispered. A silent turn. Varric turned on him. "Hold your tongue." The guard went pale. Edrun did not miss it. Runa set the servant hold ledger beside the relay slate. And while the real watch was blinded, the lower servants were written into suspicion. The dust line shivered. A thin black thread crawled from the relay underside to the servant hold ledger, then stopped at Master Alt's name. Not because he was guilty, because blame had been routed there. The false line of suspicion darkened, then cracked through the page. Beneath it, an older entry surfaced. Hold prepared before dawn questioning. Runa read it aloud. Servant hold prepared before interrogation began. Varric's jaw clenched. Standard emergency detention. A detention prepared before evidence is not caution, Runa said. It is a destination. The dust gathered the three records into one narrow pattern. Hidden blind turn, silent relay, prepared servant hold. It still did not name the assassin. It named the structure built to protect him. Black fire burned across the underside of the relay slate and through the servant hold page. Blind turn sent through relay underside while servant blame was prepared. Edrun stood slowly. His gold eyes moved to the eastern passage rotation plates, then to the captain's watch rail, then to Varric Morn. Runa saw the king finally understand what she had understood from the first ash mark. The assassin's route had not slipped through failure. It had been given room. At the far edge of the court, the broken charcoal line pulsed once and stretched toward the private stair where Edrun had been struck. Then it stopped at a smear of silver guard cloak ash. The smear of silver guard cloak ash did not look like much. That was why the passage had almost survived. It sat at the far edge of the private stair, caught beneath the inner rail where no hurried washcloth had reached. Thin, pale, nearly elegant against the black eastern stone, Captain Varric Morn looked at it and exhaled through his nose. Every Ashguard cloak sheds silver ash. You have found uniform dust in a guard passage. Runa Blackrow crouched beside the rail. Not where a cloak should brush. Dragon King Edrun Soreth stood behind her, silent. This was where he had nearly died. The private stair narrowed between two black stone walls before turning toward the war chamber. Torchlight crawled over old cuts in the rail. The smell of lye still clung to the floor, but under it, faint and bitter, Dragonbane remained like a memory the stone could not swallow. Runa pointed to the silver smear. A cloak passing through leaves ash along the outer rail. This is under the inner curve. Varric's face stayed controlled. A guard reached for the king after the attack. No, Runa said. After blood, panic ash spreads over wash. This mark is beneath the first wash. Edrin's eyes moved to Varric. Varric did not blink. I entered after the alarm. Then your cloak ash should sit above the lie, Runa said. Not under it. The court behind them had gone quiet enough to hear the torch spit. Runa lifted her gaze to Varric's silver cloak. She did not look at the shining sweep of it. Men like Varric prepared surfaces for judgment. She looked at the clasp. There, a tiny crescent missing from the blackened silver near his right shoulder. Your clasp is chipped. Varric did not look down. Edran did. That was enough. Remove it, the king said. Varric's voice lowered. Majesty, this is beneath the dignity of command. So was washing my death root. The word struck the passage cold. Slowly, Varric unclasped the silver guard cloak and handed it to a guard. Without it, he looked less like the court's shield and more like a man who had worn loyalty long enough to mistake it for skin. Runa held out her hand for the clasp. The guard looked to Edrin. Edran nodded. She took the damaged clasp by the edge and lowered it near the silver smear beneath the rail. The broken charcoal dust had followed them from the court in a thin, tired line. It did not surge. It did not rejoice. It gathered around the missing crescent and darkened the mark with exact patience. The shapes matched. A black thread burned once between clasp and rail. Varric's jaw tightened. I told you. I was here after the attack. Runa shook her head. This mark was here before the alarm. Edrin stepped closer to the stair. Before I entered, Runa looked at the floor below the rail. The final piece waited under the third step, hidden by shadow and careless cleaning. Yes, Varric's eyes sharpened. Careful, Ashrita. Runa stood. You said that when the path paused under your watch rail, and you still mistake proximity for guilt. No, she said. I mistake nothing. That is why you are still standing. The answer landed harder than accusation. Runa knelt again and slid Master Alt's broom beneath the stair lip. The copper binding scraped softly against stone. A small hook-shaped mark appeared where the dust caught. Not the release hook, a root pin. The old kind. Used to hold a hidden passage open long enough for one body to pass and close before a watchman turned his head. Edrin saw it. His face lost all remaining heat. The route was held open. Yes, Runa said. Open from the drain. Blinded from the command room. Silenced through the relay. Held here by a root pin. Varric stepped forward. By whom? Runa looked up at him. That is the question you keep asking too late. The broken plate dust trembled along the stair. It was almost spent. Runa felt it in the way the black grains dragged, as if the shattered plate were breathing through a cracked lung. Edrin had broken the frame. The court had forced the floor to finish reading, but broken proof had limits. She turned toward the passage mouth. The 6 kitchen boys, 2 lamp maids, and Master Alt stood beyond the guards, no longer bound, but still watched, still ready to be pulled back into the lie if power needed bodies again. Runa looked at Edrin. Release them from guard. Varric snapped. This is royal blood evidence. No, she said. This is the same false path you keep trying to drag back to poor hands. I will not complete it while they stand ready to be blamed again. The silence was heavy. Edrin looked at the servants, at the guards around them, at the broken black line that had taught him, mark by mark, where his trust had failed. Release them from guard, he said. The guards stepped away. One kitchen boy began to cry and pressed both hands over his mouth. One lampmaid sank against the wall as if her bones had finally learned she was not about to be dragged under the court. Master Alt only bowed his head over the old broom handle, shoulders shaking once. Runa waited until no guard ring remained. Only then did she return to the stair. She gathered the last loose dust with the copper edge of Master Alt's broom and placed it between the root pin, the cloak clasp, the stair rail smear, and the fading black line that led back toward the Ashguard court. The dust moved, slowly. Cabinet, token, lower brazier, false oath mark, release hook, drain, silent relay, blind turn, private stair, silver cloak clasp, routepane. The path did not rush toward Varric like vengeance. It drew the structure he had opened. A black fire line crawled from the root pin to the chip, and from the hook to the ash drain mouth beneath the captain's watch rail. A circle of access closed. The route had not merely passed through Varric's authority. His authority had made it passable. Black fire carved itself across the private stair wall. Assassin route, opened by captain's authority before the king entered the eastern passage. Varric went utterly still. For one heartbeat, he looked not afraid, offended, as if the law had insulted him by reaching high enough. Then he moved, not toward Edron, toward the dust. His boot swept hard across the black line, trying to scatter the last of the root. The dust flared, not in pain, in recognition. A man with nothing to hide did not try to kill Ash twice. Edron crossed the passage before the guards could breathe. He caught Varric by the throat guard of his armor and drove him back against the black stone wall. No blade, no roar, only the Dragon King holding his captain where the path had ended. "You opened my death route," Edron said. Varric's mask cracked. "I opened a necessary passage." The words struck the court harder than denial. Runa heard the servants gasp behind her. Edron's hand tightened. Necessary for whom? Varric's eyes burned now that loyalty no longer fit him. For a kingdom tired of surviving your weakness. You spare rival houses. You hear petitions from mud-born servants. You let old laws slow command. A controlled wound would have made you obey your guard. Edron stared at him, then released him. Not because anger had faded, because public law mattered more than private revenge. Captain Varric Morn is stripped of command, guard authority, knight token, release hook rights, watch rail access, and all jurisdiction over assassination inquiry, Edron said. The guards seized Varric. He fought once, not enough to escape, enough to show everyone the loyal captain had only ever been still, while the lie protected him. Edron turned back toward the court. Every record lay open now. The wash docket, the hook register, the forged inspection slip, the knight token, the false oath mark, the command room overlay, the relay slate, the servant hold ledger, the chipped cloak clasp, the root pin. This court broke proof because proof frightened it, he said. From this hour, the Ashguard court no longer holds sole authority over assassination inquiries. Ash track law is restored. No royal passage may be washed, no servant seized, no route record closed, and no guard authority sealed without an ash reader witness and public path docket. The words moved through the passage like a locked door, opening under stone. Runa did not feel triumph. She felt tired down to the bone. Edron looked at her then, not as king to servant, not as a man begging for forgiveness, as the man who had broken the tool she needed, because he feared what it would show. I destroyed the frame because I feared the path, he said. Yes, Runa answered. I trusted the man who washed the floor. Yes, I let servants be tied to a lie. Yes. Each answer struck him. He took them. That was better than apology. Not enough, but better. What do you require? He asked. Runa looked at the black line cooling across the stair. First, no servant questioned from rope when a floor has not been read. Granted. Second, ash reader reports. Go to public docket, not guard dismissal. Granted. Third, you do not break what you are afraid to read. The court went silent. Edron bowed his head. Not deeply. Enough. Granted. By nightfall, the Ashguard court did not scrub the path away. Runa insisted on that. Let nobles step around it. Let guards lower their eyes to it. Let every polished boot remember how quickly clean stone could become dishonest. The servants were released to their quarters with pay restored and names cleared in public record. Master Alt's broom was hung beside the new ash-track docket, not as decoration, but as a reminder that the lowest tool in the court had carried truth more carefully than the highest blade. Runa gathered the broken pieces of her charcoal plate herself. Edrin stood near the threshold and did not offer his hand until she looked at him. "May I?" he asked. She studied him for a long moment, then handed him the largest shard. "Do not hold it like a weapon." His fingers shifted at once. Careful now. Weeks later, the charcoal path plate was not remade smooth. Runa refused. Its cracks were filled with black iron and left visible, a reminder that breaking proof had only taught it to use the room. When Edrin came to the ash-track chamber, he no longer sent for her through guards. He waited at the lower threshold until she finished reading. Sometimes his eyes went to the scar beneath his collar. Sometimes hers went to the plate he had broken. Neither forgot. That was the beginning of trust. Not forgiveness, not devotion. A beginning. One evening, as dusk burned red over the Ashgard court, Edrin stood outside the marked path and asked, "Will it always show where I failed?" Runa looked at the black line, then at the repaired plate in her hands. "No," she said. "Only where you refused to look." He accepted that in silence. The charcoal dust stayed quiet beneath them, not because betrayal was gone, because, at last, the next step would be read before powerful men washed it away.